Hey there. Hey, everyone. Welcome back to Talks with Tiffany, the podcast. I recently recorded an episode with Judh Grandchamps, who talked to us about what it's like to redefine success after a career pivot. I hope that you go check out that episode. It was really insightful. He was an amazing guest. You're going to learn a lot from him. But it made me think about where I've had to make career pivots in my own life. So I want to tell you about one career pivot that I made that was very, very interesting. So, when I was in my late teens, around 19, maybe, yeah, I'd say about 19 years old, I was temping. And back then, you went into temp agencies on Madison Avenue or Fifth Avenue. I think it was Madison Avenue in New York City. And they had so many temp agencies. You go, you give them the resume, they update your resume, and then they look for jobs for you. I went to a temp agency. They updated my resume. I interviewed for this position and I landed the role. The role was an assistant to this woman who was a director at an organization in New York City that provides housing and services for the unhoused population, for people experiencing homelessness. I was at that job, and when I tell you, my director left a lot to be desired. I'll just leave it at that. And everyone knew it. Everyone in the company knew it, and she was probably good at what she did. But she was just a nightmare to work for. I remember just coming off the elevator and just hearing her screaming from the elevator, just all across the office floor all the time. This was her all the time. Very brash, very, very loud. And I worked for her for a while. And I remember one morning I came in, and as I was coming in, as I was getting settled at work, I got a call from my recruiter, the woman who recruited me for the job. And she said, do you have a moment to talk? This was on a regular phone. Remember back in the day? Regular phones. She said, do you have a moment to talk? And I said, yes. So I was talking to her and she said, I'm really sorry to tell you this, but your boss has decided to let you go. And I was like, fired? Moi? Fired? Like, I was so upset. I was literally in tears. I remember closing my office door and crying. Closed my office door and I cried. I would never cry in front of the people that I worked with, but with my office door closed, I did cry. I called my mom. I told her what happened. I'm about 19 at this time. I tell her what happened, and she's like, oh, she's trying to comfort me, which was great. But something that the recruiter said, she said, Tiffany, it was a Wednesday. She said, you know what? Today is Wednesday. Why don't you do this? Take Thursday and Friday off. Friday afternoon, I'll call you and I will have a new assignment for you. Before we find you something permanent, I'll just find some temp assignments. You have your rent to pay, you have your bills. I'll find you a temp assignment, and on Monday, you'll start that assignment. It was the middle of the summer. She's like, next 2 days, go to the beach, have some fun. Friday afternoon, I'll call you with the new assignment. Took her advice, did just that. Friday afternoon, she calls and she says, I have this assignment for you. On Monday morning, you're going to go to this building. You're going to see a man named John, and you'll be working here for 3 days. It's a 3-day assignment. So said, so done. Monday morning, I wake up, blue suit, pantyhose, blue heels. I am just ready to go. So I get to the building. I walk into the building. Beautiful, gorgeous building. Pre-war, gorgeous floors. I mean, this building is just gorgeous. Outside, the detailing, the architectural details are just stunning. Walk inside the building. I know that I'm going to see a man named John. Walk up to the doorman's little post that they have there. He has a big desk that, command central kind of thing happening. And his name tag says John. His name tag says John. And I'm like, they have me working outside in a hallway? Like, is this what they have me doing? But then I'm thinking to myself, I'm like, it's 3 days. I can figure this out. For 3 days, I'll just do this. I go up to him. Hi, my name is Tiffany. I'm looking for John. And I tell him the last name. And he says, oh, no, I'm not the John that you're looking for. The John that you're looking for is in this office over here. Walk into the office and meet John. And I start working. So I'm working with this woman, and it's an electrical contracting company. And she is a woman who is a lot older, a lot older. And we're just having a great time. I'm getting along with people. It's mostly the office is all men, with the exception of her and I. Getting along, I'm learning. I'm a quick learn. So things are going swimmingly. Things are going well. So on Wednesday, the day that's supposed to be my last day, the vice president of the company comes and he tells me, we've really enjoyed having you. I would really love for you to stay until the end of 3 weeks, which is when the other woman would have gone to vacation and come back. They just wanted to try me out to see how I was. I guess the plan was try me out for 3 days. If it didn't work out, they would get someone else for Thursday, Friday, see how they work out, and then make a decision probably between the two of us who was going to cover for the time that this woman was away on vacation. So I'm like, yeah, absolutely. I'd love to do that. I'd love to stay. So I'm staying for 3 weeks and the time is going on. I'm having a great time. I'm learning a lot. It is union environment. So the contractors, the project managers and the engineers and the drafters and all of those people work in the office. But then we have electricians out in the field. So Local 3 is the big electrical union in New York City. And so we have about 100 guys working in the field. So they're at different locations. Some of them are electricians. Some of them are apprentices. Some of them have been with the company for 30 years. Some of them have been with the company for 3 months. But it's a variety of jobs. We had jobs all over at the New York Stock Exchange, Teachers Insurance Association and Annuity. We had jobs at New York Hospital, all over New York City. So I'm working with them. I kind of have an idea of how to work with this population. The conversations are, they can be a little aggressive, a little naughty, but I'm kind of used to working with men. My dad, as you know, worked HVAC. He's a steam fitter in a union. So I'm used to dealing with this population. I'm used to the quick wits, the quips, I know how to be quick-witted. I know how to joke around. I'm very, very comfortable being around men. I love being around men because I've been around my dad, and my dad is amazing. And he, I feel safe and secure. And so I treat men, as my equal and as they are. And so, yeah, I was having a great time working at this company. So I'm there for 3 weeks. And the woman that I was working with, she's about to come back. And so my vice president comes back to me and he says, I would really like if you would just just stay. And so I'm like, okay, all right, this is different. Sounds good. I was like, I tried you out. I love temporary assignments because it gives an employee a chance to try out the employer, just like the employer is trying out the employee. Both parties get to see, hey, this is what I like, this is what I don't like, and they get to make the decision that works best for them. So in working there for 3 weeks, I got to see, all right, I like these guys, they're fun. I understand this work. This is something that I can do. I really had no long-term plan. I was 19. I had no long-term plan around how long I was going to be there. I just knew that I liked it for right then. I start working for the company. It's so funny. I remember it was Christmas time and they were having their Christmas party. So the office Christmas party we went to like a really amazing restaurant. We had a really fabulous meal. You got a nice little gift that came in a white envelope, if you know what I'm saying. Happy holidays, and everybody's on their way. That was that type of scenario. And I remember I was so young that everyone's ordering drinks. And then my boss is like, oh my gosh, you're too young. You can't drink. I totally forgot about that. We had just gotten into this amazing rhythm. I fit right in. Even though I was a lot younger than my colleagues, I was mature. I fit right in. I knew what I was doing. I was very capable. I was very responsible, even at that time. But that's how young I was. Anyway, I walked in there to be a temp for 3 days. 3 days. And I stayed there for 10 years. 10 years. It was so much fun. I had the best time. I had so much fun. Can I tell y'all? I had such a good time working with this company. I mean, it was just the best time. It was just the best time. Holidays were great. I mean, the holidays came and you everybody got a turkey or a ham delivered to their house for Thanksgiving and for Christmas. You want turkey, you want a ham. What do you get? Either one you're getting it delivered. It's still getting delivered to your house. Everybody got boxes of wine. This is how I learned so much about wines. We would get a box of wine. Each employee would get a box of wine to take for the holidays. It was, I mean, the generosity of this team was just amazing. And then I just learned so much. I learned a lot about business. I learned about how to create proposals for work. I learned about working in the electrical industry. I learned about lighting and electricity and amps and all this great stuff. I also learned about, how to procure items, how to get items, how to, get bids from vendors. It was an amazing, amazing job. I learned so much. I ended up becoming the payroll manager and also doing accounts payable and accounts receivable at the company. And I learned all about payroll. This is where I got my real training on payroll. I learned about payroll. I remember the first time I read payroll. And so if I'm saying that we had about 100 men working in the field, and let's say we had about 10 people working in the office, a weekly payroll for this company was I don't know, half a mil, quarter mil, probably like quarter mil. And this is back in the 90s, late 90s, mid 90s, about a quarter mil, about half a mil. Yeah, they're getting paid. Everybody's getting paid, and I was getting paid too. I must say, my boss was generous, not overly so, but also I was very committed. If I find work that I love and that I enjoy, I'm committed. I'm sticking with it. And so I remember times my mom and I talk about this all the time because we would often go to a particular restaurant. So, sidebar, the show that I loved was Sex and the City at the time. Sarah Jessica Parker, Kristen Davis, Kim Cattrall. I mean, I just loved the show. And one of the places that they frequented in the show was a restaurant called Cafeteria. Cafeteria is on 17th Street and 7th Avenue in New York City. And they are world renowned, well known for their macaroni and cheese. I mean, their mac and cheese, mwah. It is the best. You want to know the way to my heart? Bring me some good mac and cheese. Now, I can't eat a lot of it. I have to show some self-control, but their mac and cheese to die for. So, 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 so good. In fact, one of my favorite chefs, Tyler Florence, he was a very intricate important part of creating the menu at Cafeteria. He used to work down the block from where these offices were. He worked at this restaurant called Sibo, and he left Sibo and went to Cafeteria. And oh my gosh, if you get the chance, if you're in New York City, go and visit Cafeteria and get the mac and cheese. You will not regret it. You will not regret it. So, so, so good, even all these years later. Anyway, there was a time in New York City when the whole MTA went on a strike. Does anybody remember this? The whole MTA went on a strike. There were no buses. There were no trains in all the boroughs. In all of the boroughs. No buses, no trains. Anyway, at the time, my mom was still working, and cars, regular vehicular traffic, could go into New York City, into Manhattan, or the city, as we call it, could go into the city, but it had to be something like before 5 a.m. or before 6 a.m., something like that. I think it was before 5 a.m. So I used to leave my house. This was later on after I had been working there for a long time. I had to leave my house in Long Island, come to Queens to pick up my mom so that we could get into the city before regular passenger vehicles couldn't go into the city. So let's say if the cutoff was 5 a.m., we had to be in the car heading into the city so that we could be across that bridge and in Manhattan by 5 a.m. She had to be at work at 7. I didn't have to be at work until, what time did I go in for work? Either 8:30 or 9 o'clock, something like that. So what would we do? we would go almost every day to cafeteria to have breakfast because at the time cafeteria was like a 24-hour restaurant. So we would go to cafeteria and worked our way through that menu because I'll be having times if I gotta have the lemon ricotta pancakes plenty of times. But still, we worked our way through the menu and we just had like an awesome time. It was a great time of bonding. It was so unbearably early, but I didn't have a choice. Like my mom had no other way to get into work. I already drove to work. That was already my plan. But what my boss did was he was like, all right, if you want to adjust your time and, come in a little early and leave early, that's fine. Because I also didn't want my mom, who got off at 3, to wait until I got off at 4:30 or 5 o'clock. So it worked out well, but I'm just reminiscing about the show and about cafeteria and about that crazy, crazy, crazy MTA strike. I'm sure some of y'all remember that and remember what you had to do to get to work if you went to work. But anyway, going back to that career pivot, these were some of the things that drew me to that company. These were some of the things that I loved about working at this organization. What I loved about working with the guys that I worked with. Um, and then came around 2006, 2007, the beginning of the financial crisis. And at that point, I had to make a career pivot. And I was really sad. I was really sad to leave the company, but business was drying up. There was no business. In most places, people are not making renovations to their industrial spaces, to their office. They're not doing any upgrades or anything like that when the financial situation basically of the world is about to be upended. So the company that I worked for, they laid me off. And so I had to pivot out of my career and I became a stay-at-home wife. Fun times being a stay-at-home wife. It was really challenging because so much of my identity was tied to working for this company. I had worked for 10 years. I worked for them from the time that I was 19 until I was like maybe 30. And when I tell you, it was really difficult to leave what was familiar. I was so used to getting up, getting in my Jeep, driving into the city, flying across the 59th Street Bridge and up Second Avenue. I mean, we had seen so many things occur during the time that I had worked there that now trying to pivot into something different, which was being a stay-at-home mom, was a challenge, especially when there was so much of my identity connected to working for this company. And it would be one thing if I left the company and went to work at another company, but losing that professional space, the professional title of being payroll manager and AP and AR manager, to now become what? I just sit at home. I'm just stay-at-home wife. And when I say just, this is not to minimize it at all. This is to really look at how I was so connected to being payroll manager. Doing anything else would have been a challenge. Having to do another job at all would have been a challenge and was a challenge. When I became a stay-at-home wife, I was like, I need to start embracing this because it's happening. Whether I want it to happen or not, it's happening. And just realizing that I needed to accept it and understand that this is what's happening. Look at my self-worth. How do I feel about myself knowing that I have to pivot in this way? How do I feel about my accomplishments? Am I now diminished because I don't have the same accomplishments, or I'm not going to gain the same accomplishments that I had been gaining? I've been making gains as a payroll manager. By the time I left, we were processing like $1 million week payrolls. Like this company was making a lot of money. There was a point where we had people working in so many different buildings and so many different boroughs and so many different cities. This company was really, really thriving. And for me to leave all of that behind I have to admit, it was really, really a challenge. When I first became a stay-at-home wife, I didn't know what that was going to mean for me. I didn't know what that was going to mean for my then husband. But I didn't have a choice. I better jump in and embrace it because this is what it is. So I become a stay-at-home wife, and I'm kind of like thinking, I'm gonna make this what I wanted to be. I'm gonna make this fun. I'm gonna make this what I wanted to be. I had some money saved, which was nice. I had some ideas around being a stay-at-home wife. I remember talking to my mom about this. And I remember my mom telling me about when she was a stay-at-home mom when I was a baby, and she was like, "Yeah, I was a stay-at-home mom," and she was like, "And your dad would give me $60 a week to go shopping, and I would do all the grocery shopping, and I basically was staying home and taking care of you." And yeah, I remember that. I remember even as a toddler, maybe around 3 years old, I have clear memories of my mom being home. I really do. I have memories of her being home, me being home with her. And so she had gone through this, and so she could tell me a little bit about it, but I had also had, like, a pretty robust career for those 10 years. I was handling a lot of financial responsibility for this organization, and so now I don't know that she necessarily was tied to a career in that way, the way I was. What she told me definitely helped. And so, my then husband and I, we kind of came up with an idea about how we were going to spend money, what we were going to do. Let me tell you something. Your girl Tiffany, I don't mind working from home. I don't mind staying home, but I'm gonna make me some money. I tell you that right now. I'll make me some money. Like I have to I have to have a sense of autonomy. I have to have a sense of independence to be able to make my own money. So when I get mad, I can jump in my car and go where I need to go and do what I need to do. Like I'm not the type of person to want to go to their spouse, like, can I have $20? I want some lip gloss. No, I'm not. That's not me. That's not me. It's not me. So when I was a stay at home wife, I started looking online and I became a part of this community. This community was called the Happy Housewives Club. And the premise of this community was it was thousands of women across the US who were all housewives or stay at home moms. And so, stay at home wives or stay at home moms. And so, I become a part of this community and then I become one of the editors on a page because like I said, I'm gonna make me some money. So I became the beauty, what was that called? I think it was something like the beauty and wellness editor or something like that. So I had a little character of myself on this website. When you would go, you would see my little back then everything was like cartoon or animated characters. And so I had this little character. I should find it and post it somewhere. As a little character of myself, and every week I would provide the community with tips around looking cute, around sales for beauty products, around all kinds of stuff. What to wear for drop off. Um, what else? Like making the most of your coupons, all of this stuff. It was so much fun, so much fun. And when I say community, this was like, it was probably about 30,000 women. It was huge. It was big. And this is people across the United States. There were some people from other countries as well. I remember there were some people from Australia, from the UK, some people from South Africa. There was someone from France. So there were, this is 20,000 women who were stay-at-home wives, stay-at-home moms across the globe, essentially, all trying to figure, there were people from South America, all of these people trying to figure out how to make the best of this situation, how to do the best they could for their families, for their loved ones, for their partners, for their children. And so I became an editor on this page. And let's say on a Sunday like this, the new page would go up and I would have done my research. I would have scoured the stores pretty much across the US. I would have told you, hey, listen, this week, Great Lash Mascara is going to be on sale. Don't get one, but get 2 tubes because for 2 tubes, you'll get 2 tubes for the price of one. I would put up things like at that time, everybody was wearing these Juicy Couture sweatsuits. Do y'all remember? Did everybody have a Juicy Couture sweatsuit with Juicy written across your bum? I think everybody had that sweatsuit. So my big thing was whatever, find a uniform essentially that's going to be your stay-at-home mom, stay-at-home wife uniform. No one's running around in like regular nasty sweats and old oversized t-shirts. I was stay-at-home mom cute. I was stay-at-home wife cute. Cute. There were times when, yeah, I'm wearing my Juicy Couture sweatsuit, with the zipper down, with the cute tank underneath. I always wear sunglasses when I go out. classes, face done, earrings on, like, because I really had the sense, I really had the feeling, because I'm staying home, I still get to treat this as a position, as a role that I love and that I want and that I want to be respected for. And I knew that showing up dressed a specific way really was key to doing that. It was really key for me personally, to dress the way that I wanted to be experienced. And so I would, make sure that I dress. If there was a sale happening somewhere, I would tell people, hey, listen, they have a sale on white tees. These are the basics that you need to have in your wardrobe. This is what you need to look pulled together. Have a go-to look, have a date night look, and just rotate them, and how to do it all on a budget, right? Because we're talking about, there were middle America women in this group. Like, their husbands were making $25,000 for the year, and this is around 2008, 2009. Yeah. $25,000. One person in the family making $25,000. The women had to make that money. Well, they had to stretch it. They had to stretch that dollar, make it walk. So we would talk about how to maximize everything, how to maximize a recipe, how to maximize. Listen, when I tell you, don't let me get a rotisserie chicken because I can turn that into so many different meals. We would talk about recipes. We would talk about how to maximize sheets and towels and what to get from what store and how to provide make things multi-use. It was an amazing time. And so even in this pivot, in that career pivot, for me, success was, when my husband got home, there was a meal waiting, when we still did things and I was able to do it on a budget and make it look incredible. And I still do that. Like, I can still do that. Those are some of the things that I learned that were really helpful. Like, just the success of, yeah, he wasn't coming home to find me in a ratty t-shirt and some basketball shorts. He was coming home to find me decked out. Decked out. I remember one time our next door neighbor came to the door at around the same time that my husband would get home. So I went to the door and opened it up because I heard like a knock at the door. And I'm thinking it's my husband. And I opened the door and my next door neighbor was like, "I'm supposed to see this." Like, I would be decked, 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 decked. Because I think there's always a way to make things special and make things fun. And be intentional. And so I was like that as a stay-at-home wife, and then ultimately as a stay-at-home mom, I was still like that. So I really definitely knew about and understood a career pivot. I'm going to tell you that there was another career pivot that occurred at this same time, but I don't know. Should I tell you all about that now? I think I'm going to save that for another time. Just know that pivoting from being payroll manager to being a stay-at-home spouse, or just pivoting from a professional career to being a stay-at-home partner, stay-at-home parent, it is so worthwhile. It is something that you get to take a lot of pride with. There are families that thrive and do so much better once the decision is made. And I think when we decide and we're intentional about doing anything well, there's no stopping us. I think the success of a family is increased when someone decides, you know what, I really think it would be best for me to stay at home. I really think our family would thrive. I really think this would work. And like I said, even though I was at home, I was still making money. I was still earning income, which was really, really nice. And I definitely shifted my mindset to embracing and making the best of this. I learned so much during that time about myself, about the level of grit and determination that I have, the level of commitment to tradition and legacy that runs so deeply within me. I learned a great deal about those parts of myself that I didn't have time to explore when I was busy building my career. So I'm really glad that I had an opportunity for that major career pivot. I want to invite you to reflect on your own pivots. Where have you had to change and do something different? I know sometimes people, they become so tied to their identity that it's hard to change. I have a friend that worked a particular type of job. I'm not even going to tell you what kind of job it was, but she worked it for 5 years. You would think that this person was a doctor. She is so tied to her little job that she had for 5 years. And I think what's interesting about it is that even though it was 5 years, she feels like she's the expert in this space. And I'm like, you're not the expert, A, in that space. You worked there for 5 years. Like, stop. That's A. But B, the other part is that's not even, you haven't done 20 years. And I think what happens is sometimes we're holding on to the past so much that we're refusing to grab what's right in front of us. And whether she likes it or not, the present is what's occurring right now. So we can go into this begrudgingly, dragging our feet, kicking and screaming, or you can go into your next pivot ready to embrace what's new, ready to embrace a new version of yourself, ready to embrace new information, ready to embrace a new level of depth and commitment to yourself. And I think that's something that we should do. So I hope that you give some thought to, if you're in the middle of a pivot, how can you do this pivot better? If you know that you need to pivot from the career that you have and you need to do something else, now's the time. Now's the time. Do it. Do it. Stop waiting and waiting and waiting. I think that was the key to my success in pivoting from the first position where I was fired, and just embracing the idea to work at this other company with this man named John, who thankfully turned out to be a wonderful, wonderful manager, a wonderful vice president that I had, from a 3-day temp situation to 10 years that ultimately ended after 10 years. And then my pivot from working for a company, being a payroll manager for 10 years, to becoming a stay-at-home wife and then a stay-at-home mom. The pivot was happening. I embraced it at each turn. I think that we get to look forward and we get to embrace pivots as they occur. I think our lives are much better when we embrace versus being dragged, kicking and screaming. I think there's some things that we know we just don't want to do, so then maybe we should just not do them. But the pivot, yeah, I love a pivot. I love a good career pivot. That's it for me. I hope you all check out this podcast episode with Judh Grandchamps. You're going to love it. I think you're going to learn a lot about career, about pivots, about making changes. So I look forward to talking to you all again. Thank you so much for tuning in. Please comment, share, like, subscribe. We're on YouTube, we're on Amazon Music, we're on Apple Podcasts, we are on Spotify. So I can't wait to talk with you all again. Thank you so much. I appreciate your support. Take care. Bye.